I mean, we
Or the-
expanded that
that,
because
yeah.
we wanted to attract people in.
Correct.
So, yeah, and it's worked. I mean, we had 20,000 people like the last year.
So, but again, the people that know that that was the initiative are the people that have been here since 2019. Did you know that all of those things were Promote Leon Valley? No. So that's why we're having the conversation today, because even some of your council members don't know what Promote Leon Valley is. That's why we are having this meeting
Okay,
today.
Mr. Bradshaw.
So I think this, to my point earlier, this goes back to having SMART goals, right? And you know, more measurable and specific of what they mean. Now, do we need to say, you know, like when we talk about economic development, bring in 3 businesses and, you know, I don't know if we need to get down
Employees
to
and
that
stuff, yeah.
level, but we need to, like you said before, revitalize our mission statement and our vision statements, and then have goals that help to achieve those. And I think, you know, this is good conversation. As Crystal started off with, I think we need to get through this and then probably go home and think about these and come back with suggestions for what we want to change.
So my recommendation on this objective is to for sure take out C and D, because you've already, D is the same as A. And C, we've just revitalized the street maintenance thing, and so it's 7 years. So by the time you come back again and take a look at your strategic plan, it would be time to add that goal back on. But for this time period, you're done. You've already readopted your street maintenance.
I mean, we could keep Promote Leon Valley, but you have to give an specific
I
example.
would give an explanation
Yeah,
of what
an
that means. Does it mean,
explanation,
are you looking at your logo? Does it mean, right?
Mr. Martinez.
This should be, we shouldn't have individual items on here. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. It should be more of an overview, not as general as this, a little more in detail, but it needs to be an overall map of, this is our objective of what we're gonna do. The individual items, though, that's some completely separate. This should be our overall goal of what we're trying to achieve.
Right, so your overall goal is economic development, and these were your objectives below is how you meet economic development, right? So these were supposed to be a little bit more specific at the time to meet your economic development goal. I went back to look at the minutes of that conversation. I think it was a lengthy meeting. I think there was a lot of conversation. Y'all did it over like a 2-part meeting kind of thing. I think y'all just wanted to be, it sounds like y'all just wanted to be kind of done after the kind of conversations, like, so y'all made some changes, because if not, I don't know how A and D, they're literally the same item, ended up in there and nobody caught that. I mean, they're a little bit different, but they're essentially the same thing. So again, I just want, so I'm gonna finish going through them. I'll go over, we have, I think, 1 or 2, or 1 item for this one that we would like to add. To this one, we feel like in some form, it doesn't even need to be read this way, but sometimes we think that council doesn't take a look at employment as being an economic development initiative, and it really should be. Adding jobs to your community is also very important. So Roga came up with increased employment and job quality while remaining competitive with the greater San Antonio region, ultimately enhancing long-term quality of life.
But also bringing in businesses that our city will support, and I know you're working on that, okay? So
Yeah. Yes,
you know.
and you sat on a call
Yeah,
with us.
So I mean, we're getting there. Yes, Mr. Stevens.
First, I want to apologize for being tardy to class.
That's okay. We forgive you.
It's a rough labor market, so you gotta do what you gotta do. I apologize if any of this is redundant. I was trying to listen, but I couldn't get the video to come up for some reason. The way that I look at this is goals are usually an actual statement of like, what is your goal? Like, it's usually not just a catchphrase. It's usually like a statement. I don't know, have y'all looked at other strategic plans, like a good one, a well-done one?
So the city of Bernie went through like a whole process, and they had workshop after basically SWAT, kind of what we did initially back in 2009. And so you call community meetings, you set out what do you think is important to your city, you do these whole things before you even get to this piece. This meeting, based on the conversation we had at the last meeting, was we just want to revamp what we currently have. If you want to start from scratch, then we can cancel this meeting right now and we can hold workshops, do a whole SWOT analysis. You can meet with the community and, we come up with individual goals. If you believe these goals are no longer the direction y'all want to go in, then that's the first.
So I guess what I'm getting at is you have goals
Sure.
and then you have objectives.
Sure.
And so both of those in strategic plans I've looked at,
Sure.
both of those, the statements start with verbs and then it ends with, and like, what is your goal? And then the objectives to achieve that goal. So for example, and I don't know this, obviously I'm just kind of making this up, but so the goal would be like, positively develop the business sector or increase the good businesses in Leon Valley and increase the local economy for our citizens to work, play, drive through. That could be the goal, and it starts with a verb. And then the objectives are how do you achieve that? And so then it could be something like incentivize businesses to come to Leon Valley through new tax abatement programs. Or I think both of them should start with a verb, and that's why I was kind of confused by the whole economic development, because if you look at this, like strategic plans from other organizations, like probably they were put together by a consultant or something, they start with.
This was put together by a consultant.
Oh.
Del Garza, I think, came in 2017. I don't think in 2019 y'all had it. I couldn't remember. Maybe y'all did have Del Garza in 2019.
And I just have one more thing. So like specifically regarding this, that's just how I kind of see it. I know it would take a lot of work, obviously, to change that. But also in just looking at the basic point A, so revitalize declining commercial areas by creating, reviewing, and enforcing codes that impact economic development. Okay, impact is like, it's just like a choice of words. So impact could be negatively.
Right. That's what we
Could be
just had the
Oh,
conversation
okay.
about.
So I apologize.
Sustainability overlay.
Sustainability is like, that's where the sustainability overlay came from, was this original goal, was to impact economic development.
Right, but that's not even
Right?
I was kind of surprised it's put together by consultants, because this could be negatively impacted. Like, I think the intention of objectives are to specifically state how you want to do it, like, as well as what you want to do.
That's been my argument for the last 45 minutes, is that I need clear, like, these objectives aren't objectives, like, they're not objectives to me.
So.
Promote Leon Valley, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Like, so again, that's been my argument for.
Let's move on and we'll come back and we'll really relook at the objectives to make them more specific. Yes, Mr. Mata? Just so because we have a lot of goals. We have what, 7 or 8? Yeah. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. I love Sedona.
That's great. How about this? I mean, 45 minutes have gone by, and with 5 different members on council, I'd say it's a lot harder to come up with goals that you all agree on, and the idea of wasting money on a consultant firm, if this is the kind of dribble you could expect from consultant firms, please don't go that way. Waste of our money. But how about coming up with things that we've learned here as a city in regards to ways we've impacted the community negatively by getting too involved, by violating rights of citizens. And I'm not pointing to any particular agency or group within the city, but things that were done by previous councils that ended up leading us to a point where we just had too much input, and we ended up hurting businesses. We ended up hurting citizens. I think, consider the rights of the citizens and what we don't want to do, how we don't want to step on their toes. I mean, Chris, I know you look a little perplexed, but because you were the mayor at the time that this came out, and to me, this is like something you'd see coming out of the World Economic Forum. A bunch of
I can't remember all the
Well, it's a bunch of virtue signaling. It's a bunch of just dribble. It's a bunch of buzzwords that make people feel good. It's serving government, and it leads to no good. I think one thing I can say that we've learned in the last 2 years is that things are turning around out there. Things are looking better. I think business-wise, I think the citizens are feeling better about it as well. I mean, I know there's some issues about property and what direction we go with that, but if you think about the direction we were going there for quite a while, it was looking pretty bad. And we ended up in the mess we did for particular reasons. And sure, we can all have a debate on that, but think about what we don't want to do as elected officials to impact the citizens negatively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
So I'm just gonna kind of get us back on track. So what I'm gonna do, again, let me go through all the goals, let me go through some suggested changes, and then you can get whatever input you need, and they can come up during that time as well. And then I think y'all need to go back, come up with what y'all wanna do, bring that back so I have somewhere to start, unless y'all are going to want to start from the very beginning. And if that's the case, then that's a whole different direction. So that's completely up to the council on how y'all wanna proceed.
Okay, do you not want any questions you want to?
Oh, you
go through
can.
the whole
I
thing?
mean,
Okay, you still want to
I
do
mean,
that? Okay, I just want to be
Well,
sure.
I mean,
Sure.
if you have something
Yeah.
that's burning in your soul,
question. Okay.
then feel free to ask. I can probably give you the background of what that objective led to. If you have questions about that, kind of like what we did with these, but it's gonna take a little bit more time before we do that.
Okay, yes, Mr. Stevens,
I have a question about the recommendation,
on the economic development? Okay.
yes, this one. When I read this, I was confused, because I view government's job as incentivizing businesses that then employ people. I don't think we actually employ people in the city. And so I actually interpreted this, like, just upon first glance, of increasing employment at City Hall, right?
Oh, okay.
And so it just probably, if that's added, it probably needs some clarity, and it should be something that the city can actually do, not, because we aren't gonna hire people to work at Whataburger.
Right.
But we can encourage businesses
right, and
to hire
so,
people.
Roca has been working with a couple of businesses that aren't really gonna bring in sales tax, but they're gonna fill vacancies, but they're gonna bring some jobs. So he felt increasing employment should be part, if you take a look at economic development, you go to economic development classes, increased job opportunity is part of economic development. And so, he was trying to include that, but of course, any of these additional recommendations is, staff was trying to keep also in line with what you currently had. So you'll see some of their recommendations kind of vague too, because they were trying to keep in line with what you currently had. And so this whole objective right here can be rewarded, like, we support businesses that increase job opportunity or something like that. You could do something like that. It doesn't have to read this way. We were just trying to keep in line with what you had, if that makes sense. Goal number 2, they grouped police, fire safety and security as one goal. You'll see here, they have fire submitted some recommendations, police submitted a whole bunch. Police doesn't expect you to take all of these. They put a whole bunch out there so you could pick 1 or 2 or 3 of those, but they were giving you some ideas of what you could do on the police side. They would like to be pulled away from fire. They want their own goal, or their own section, and so something for y'all to consider. But goal number 2 was looking at first responders. They'll exceed all state and federal mandates. Leon Valley responders will work as a team. Leon Valley responders will strive for equal and impartial, intact, and enforce all code ordinances. Leon Valley will maintain a recruitment effort. Leon Valley will respond to all calls within the nationally recognized standards. And then Leon Valley will provide all first responders superior equipment. The fire chief came back with some rewarding of those, but again, trying to keep in line with what you currently had. And so he rewarded objective A, B, E. No, I didn't misnumber them. This is objective F, G. So it's not a renumbering, it's just relates to the objectives over here, if that makes sense. So G would be an addition. Leon Valley will strive to provide current and relevant training for all positions to ensure a highly trained workforce. And then these were a bunch of recommendations from the police department. Again, not picking all of them, they just kind of wanted to give you some ideas of what that looked like. Next big goal is, yes,
So on.
Yes, Mr. Campos.
On the recommendations, where I was a little uncomfortable with is as defined by the city council.
we moved.
And on the recommendations, where it has in 3 different places as defined by city council. But it's kind of like, at least for me, I'm just gonna speak for me, I don't know what all the state and federal mandates are. Okay, and so if, without that knowledge, I don't know how it could be by city council.
Because y'all adopt like the IBC, like we bring back the 2021, y'all adopt every amendment. If we decide to adopt the IBC, y'all adopt any amendment to the IBC. We don't adopt those codes. We bring them to you, you adopt them as a council. So that's what that means is as defined by city council, because there's plenty of times where we'll make recommendations, like let's say on an amendment to a code, that the council may not particularly agree with, and they won't adopt that amendment. I think the lantern lighting situation came up with the aquarium at one point, and we had a bunch of codes, on the books, and so the council adopted the 2021 International Fire Code. So that's what that means.
And the other one is E on the, response. I don't know if it's just for information, but I just wanna make sure that we're,
So when we do nationally
You know, it says-
recognized standards, some of that requires money, right?
That's-
And so that's why we say, but as defined by council. So we may tell you, yeah, in order to hit the national standard to have X amount of response time or whatever, we need $1 million fire truck. I'm just gonna go there. And, in order to, to achieve this goal, right? Y'all can say, oh, we're not gonna go out and get you $1 million fire truck. So it's defined by y'all because you're the one that funds that product. But again, you can revamp these. We put in as defined by council because everything we do is by your standard. So it may be a nationally recognized standard, but you have to fund it and you still have to adopt it.
so that goes back to where I was going at the very beginning about the mission statement, about the fiscal responsibility. And that's how we need to, the framework again, to develop
Yeah.
what our first
I don't
responders
disagree
need.
with that.
Yeah, I think fiscal responsibility definitely needs to be somewhere.
Mr. Martinez.
Some of the things that I read in here in the previous slide, are, requirements of the job. Like paramedics, we would ideally have every firefighter a paramedic. That's a goal. It's not something that really should be in this mission statement. That's a part of the job, the job requirements.
But y'all do define that, because I can hire all EMTs, right? And
Yeah.
that's cheaper for y'all, I can reduce your budget by hiring all firefighter EMTs.
But then again, here we strive to give a better quality of service to our people by having, paramedics. So, but, you can always hire an EMT and with their goal of becoming a paramedic.
Very
But that-
expensive, sir.
I know it is, but again, with that requirement, you can also put a requirement that, okay, Leon Valley is gonna turn you from an EMT into a paramedic, but you have to commit to working for the next 2 years here.
And how do you hold them to that standard? You're gonna sue them when they leave within a year?
You charge them for the school.
How? I can't take it from their paycheck, how?
Companies do that.
You're a government agency, you're not a private agency, I can't remove it from their check for the hours worked. So if they work the hours, I have to pay them for hours worked. The only place I can take it from for refund is their pre-PTO. I can tell you right now, most firefighters don't have $7,000 to $8,000 worth of PTO sitting in their banks.
Okay, but if they know that they're gonna get sued for $8,000.
Are y'all willing to do that? Y'all willing to do
We
that? We're kinda getting off topic, but I'm
We're
just,
off topic, but some of these, on the previous slide, are just conditions of the job, and they really shouldn't be in this,
okay, so again, this is just me going through what you currently have. The fire chief rewarded what you currently have, like he rewarded what, he thought it would read a little bit better. And so these are Mike's recommendations. If you're gonna completely change them though, you can just completely change them.
So, again,
Mr. Bradshaw, thank you.
I think that, when I first looked at these and I was reading them before the reports, but the one thing I appreciate is these, mostly if you look at them, are very specific and measurable. You're like, this is exceed all state and federal mandates, right? Do we do that, right? You can say, check, yes, we do, right? And we adopt these standards, check, we do. So I appreciate that these are actual, more as goals that are something, instead of just like, be good police officers, right? Something silly like that, right? Like, good, like, how do you measure that, right? Like, or the fire chief put out the fires, right? Good job, like, these are much more specific, so I appreciate that, and I think it's a good, attempt at rewording, and something that at least to start from, so we can go back and see what we should keep and what we maybe should combine or reduce.
Again, those were some additional police, and they wanna be their own goal. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr.
I agree
Stevens.
with that. I agree with that.
So I really like these police ones. I think they're excellent, but going back to the goal, police, fire, safety, security is not a goal.
Right.
It would be like enhance the police and fire and EMS services within the city. That would be a goal. Or increase, something like that. And what I like is, I feel like for fire, I know it says exceed the minimum, but it's not really like that's what is expected of them to meet the, I don't think the strategic plan is to set the minimums. I think it's to set the maximums, if that makes sense. This isn't a job description, right? And that's why, so going back to the police ones, how they talk about specific new things, not existing things, new things. So implementing initiatives and strategies to decrease crime rates in the community. Like that's not a day-to-day thing necessarily. And I think the whole intent of a strategic plan is to take you kind of out of the day-to-day and to focus on the possible and what you'd like to see to accomplish that goal, which is enhance, police, fire, EMS services or whatever. I just feel like these police and fire ones, the fire and EMS goals are almost
Well, those are supposed to be your fire, EMS, and police goals. First responders.
Oh, and so maybe that's the problem also, is that we're
We
putting
put them all together.
That might be the problem, but I think it is, if going back to like the paramedic thing, if our goal, because I know municipalities have it on there, and so if we want all of our firefighter paramedics to be at least on the track to become a paramedic or whatever the case may be, that might be something that would accomplish the goal that we could lay out in here. And again, this isn't over the next, this isn't this year, it's like over the next 3 months.
Well, all of your firefighter paramedics, or all your firefighters are paramedics with the exception of 3. The council allowed 3 EMTs on staff, so we have, I think, 3 EMTs.
Right, again, this is the future.
Right.
So if we want all those EMTs to become paramedics, that's something that should be in here.
That was a change by y'all. So all of our, we only had firefighter paramedics forever, and then a couple of years ago, y'all changed.
Yeah, I'm not picking on that at all.
Yeah.
If we want all paramedics, then we should lay that out in here.
Right.
And we should tell those 3 people, hey, the council, we have a new strategic plan for the next 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. And this is one of the things. And so hopefully at the end of this, we'll have all paramedics. And just tell us it,
Well, I think we can keep the police, fire, safety all under one, but maybe have police objectives and fire objectives under the goals. Just to
But it depends on what you
keep it
change your goal
together.
to be.
Yeah,
If you're
I
gonna
don't know
do-
what the goals.
Right, if your goal isn't going to be phrases or statements or titles,
Yeah.
And you're gonna have an actual goal, like continue to improve your fire or whatever you make your goal to be, it may turn into 2 separate goals depending on what your goal is.
But it's safety,
Safety.
security, it's all under that umbrella.
I agree with Bradshaw and Stevens, but what I really like about that is where you have a person about being proactive and learning from past experiences. And I wonder how, if you have new recruits coming in, like we're learning from the CHOP incident, how we're gonna reflect that to new coming police officers. I really like that statement. You're being proactive and you learning from past experiences. I just want to see how you're going to be passing that on And I know the chief, both chiefs, and they're very well capable of doing that, but I really like that statement.
Next goal is on transportation. This one had mainly to do with TxDOT and improving your streets. We were really big on, bicycle lane, trails, that kind of thing at the time. We did the VIA shuttle, that was the VIA bus that takes you directly downtown, which is the one that was gonna be next to the town center.
And it's still there.
It's still there,
Yeah.
but that's why I said an
It's
additional.
connected to the medical center though.
You don't need that statement on the additional shuttle, so you can take that out. If you decide to blend those.
They put it, they realigned it because we thought we were gonna have a town center, so they wanted to promote, mass transit there.
Melinda, made some changes to this one, and she just recommended a reward to add, continue to, for objective A, to work with TxDOT and the city of San Antonio, transforming Bandera Road to the traffic flow so that pedestrians are safe and multimodal transportation encouraged.
Yes, Mr. Campos.
So, the transportation, the way that I see this, it only highlights Bandera Road. But what about the other streets? I think we need to do something to include some of those, Everett Road, Grissom, all Heavener, all of the.
All the main
and
thoroughfares,
we need to
Grissom,
figure
Evers,
out,
Heavener, Eckerd, we
You know,
can certainly do that.
That's a good point, yeah. And people are asking about stop signs, not signs, I'm sorry, stop lights
and how
on Evers Road.
we can address some of the issues with blind spots, like we have on Evers Road in, let's say, I think it's Forest Meadow, where if traffic is coming all the way toward Heavener, you really can't see out of that intersection, that stop sign, and you're taking your life in your own hands when you're making a left turn. And how are we gonna address that? So I think my suggestion would be that, to include that. The sidewalk rehabilitation, I hope we can see, and this is behind the scenes, and you do that some way in the, I guess, the city manager's report. Maybe if we can see more of like a plan of here are the sidewalks, here's our progress toward that. But again, it's not part of this, but just something that I would look forward to seeing. So that's what I have for that.
Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Stevens.
I didn't think about that earlier, but I like I think San Antonio called it Project, or Vision Zero or something like that.
That's to cut down on pedestrian deaths.
Right, but it's to clear these, it's,
So you can see around
the
corners.
primary goal is to make transportation safe, because cars are killing people. And so I think that would be a great thing to add into the strategic plan, because definitely there's room for improvement in the Gun Valley in multiple streets like you had discussed. So I don't know what we would call that, but I think that's a very worthwhile thing that we definitely have room for improvement.
Do we have a lot of pedestrian deaths on Bandera Road?
No, I don't think it's deaths. It's like
Accidents.
Yeah, Project Zero was. It wasn't
Turning
just
out.
for pedestrians.
Yeah,
It was
it's
for
turning out
it was
getting
for cars and accidents as well.
And it had like a visibility.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They built the fences right up to the road, so you can't see when car traffic's coming.
Right. So
that is
Okay.
safer
Yeah.
Can we
coming
apply
out.
for a grant for that, the visibility? Yeah, so we have a grant for that already. So again, we're doing things that are out, like,
Right, we're
we're already working on that. And so, I'm over here talking with my hands, that's pretty good. So we're already working on it, it's just not listed as a goal, and that's a prime example of why this needs to be looked at. Because we see these initiatives, we know that it's something the council wants, but it's not written anywhere, if that makes sense. So that's transportation, that was one, infrastructure and capital plan. For a while, and I was looking through it, and I was shocked, but like your public works, I know we have ADA somewhere. Y'all developed your ADA plan, as part of, the federal guidelines, we had to have a plan. But the plan didn't mean that you sit on the plan forever. Y'all really should have some goals in achieving ADA accessibility in your public spaces. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Campos.
So that would be great. I'm glad y'all have a plan someplace for like ADA, but I think that needs to be brought to our attention as we're going back to
We did.
formulating the budget.
We did.
And so that way we can figure out, okay, what monies do we need to set aside? But maybe a bigger holistic picture is, is this something that we want to commit bond money to? And then the impacts, understanding the fiscal impact of, okay, we're gonna do this through a bond of some sort.
So we did that. So we
Okay.
brought the bond to y'all with the ADA accessibility, public works change, was all in that bond package. The interest rate skyrocketed, and so the council decided not to move forward with that.
But that must have been in a different budget cycle. I don't remember seeing that.
It was
That was
the,
2 years ago, and this was where we were looking at revamping public works.
so it's public works, all the ADA
We had a
accessibility.
committee and.
And the council said at that time to wait for because it was a lot, we had a bond oversight committee,
Mhm.
they met every other week, I mean, we were there for a month, for months though, I mean, we weren't,
Yeah,
we were
but
there
that
a lot.
monthly.
But again, if that's if we're gonna add ADA and we're gonna look at, and I'm gonna be bringing a bond, because we need to figure out a way for the pools, ADA's on that plan, as well as public works, the interest rates are starting to come down, so I think y'all need to start making a decision on some of that again. But that's part of, this upcoming budget cycle. You're welcome.
Yes,
Or,
Mr.
is
Stevens.
this specifically on infrastructure, right?
This is infrastructure and capital plans.
Yeah, so this is like again, going back, this is the bare minimum. A is the bare minimum. That is an expectation, I think, of every city. There's nothing special about that. We're developing a capital plan. I mean, I just don't understand why this isn't why this isn't our strategic plan.
Because it's easier to meet these goals. Everybody do it. Check.
I'm curious.
Again,
So are y'all willing to, do y'all wanna take a look really quickly at Fort Worth's strategic plan? Like just as a model of something that is really good, at least some catchphrases on it, and kind of see like why we're missing the mark. This is my opinion, but I think we're missing the mark. And because a strategic plan is like a special, it's like what you really, it's all going back to your vision. So what do you want to do in the future? It's not how we operate day to day now. And frankly, we already have a 10-year budget plan. I think probably every city does with capital assets on it. And so why that's on our strategic plan, I don't know. But Fort Worth is a good example. If you're on a computer, you can Google it, their strategic plan. But they're, and they specifically phrase everything. It's a lot of verbs and it's a lot of future stuff. But they're all really achievable. It's just a matter of making it happen.
Do you want to give us an example?
Yeah. So so one of their objectives.
Is this on infrastructure?
Yeah. It's just their general. They have different sections. So like this is under business development.
Okay.
So objective: expand downtown's traditional business clusters to include more life sciences, including corporate offices, research and development laboratories, insurance carriers, healthcare providers, consultants, manufacturers, and clinics. And so then they have their strategy. So we kind of, which I think you could term it like this or like the way we have it. But, and it all starts, notice everything starts with verbs. So like, support University of North Texas Health Science Center in creating a new Doctor of Medicine degree granting program, explore opportunities to leverage business with the school degree programs in certain fields, participate in the development of a community plan for a life sciences cluster. And they have a lot of these because they have like economic development and then kind of like our sections. But their things it's not things that are day to day. And I think that's what I'm getting at. And I know we aren't, these are kind of like, we aren't going to be in this exact area, but it's the strategic plan. It's not really meant to talk about day-to-day stuff. It's meant to talk about the things that you want to achieve.
so you missed my first 30-minute rant on how this didn't tie together. So that's exactly what I said when we came in, that they all had to tie together what we currently have as objectives. And I know I've said it to some people, but the objectives they don't translate into, right, like they just don't. And so, and that was where I was going, was like, I hope that as we move through this process that we have objectives that truly tie into your mission and your vision statement, and your goals tie into those things. And we can either do that by starting from scratch. You look at, Mr. Mondo's gonna look up, but look at having a consultant come in and kind of facilitate that. There are some really good consultants. I'm sure Fort Worth had one. I'm sure they didn't do it all on their own. And so again, it's just something that y'all need to consider on how you wanna move forward with it. Again, this isn't, looking at the strategic plan, you should do it every 5 years as a best practice, that's why it's here and we're having the conversation. But this isn't a 911 emergency, it doesn't mean we have to have an end product by the end of the month, right? Like, this is something we can work through. I just need to know what process you wanna work through. For instance, like on the recommendations after infrastructure, there it is, I put add bond for ADA and public works building, like, that's an objective, staff can work towards that. I mean, it would be worded differently, I was just trying to give a bullet point. We need to have something on water infrastructure needs. There's nothing that on the other page to talk about your water infrastructure needs. You have $32 million worth of water infrastructure needs, but that's not a goal, but that would be a future goal, right? Replace all of Forest Oak sewer mains by, whatever, the trees. Yeah, I mean, so those are what Councilor Stevens is saying, those are true objectives. And so it's hard for me, coming from an academic arena, when you study what strategic plans look like, what objectives look like, when I see these, the reason the staff isn't, this isn't true, they're not true objectives, some of them are, but the majority of them on here aren't true objectives that flow back into your mission and vision statement. I think what happened is you came up with your mission and vision statement, you had a set of really good objectives, and then over time, you just kept amending and they stopped tying into one another. And so, all I was asking from the staff's perspective was, if y'all did this, if you could please make your objectives very clear, if you're gonna stick with this format, or we need to go back to square one, and I just need to know which way y'all wanna do that.
Well, let's go through it all and then we can have that discussion. How do we wanna do it? Wanna start from scratch or just work with what we have? Or add another goal or whatever.
Okay, so, install traffic and water crossing cameras. And so here, like, and this is a clear objective, right? Like, install them, so it gives feedbacks to websites. Timo, this is part of the smart city that's coming out of smart city, right now. And so this was, of course, your IT person. Add surveillance cameras to City Hall. We're all kind of piecemealed. Some are on Nest cameras, some are on, I'm gonna get, the Longitech that was built in this building. So we're all on different components, and so you have to log into different portals to look at different things. Next is environmental sustainability. Don't freak out, but like maximizing recycling. Like I don't know what that, like how, like you already have a recycling program.
We need to educate on recycling.
Yeah, so that wasn't a goal, that's not a clear objective to me. And so,
But see, Crystal, we do have a El Verde by 2020, which is to reduce our carbon, so.
right, but
How
that
do
should
we-
have been on there.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
that should have
Yeah.
been, that's a clear objective, right? El Verde by 20, that's an objective. We're gonna hit El Verde by 2025 or whatever.
2025,
Or-
we moved it to 2025, yeah.
And so that is a clear objective, right? That Kitty El Verde are planting 10,000 trees by 2025. That's a measurable item. We can do that. Reducing vehicle emissions and environmental hazards by production. I don't know if y'all remember, this was added when we were gonna turn a lot of our city vehicles into hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles, but then police, it was turning out, it didn't work that well for police. And of course, you can't really do that for fire. And so we kind of ditched that idea. Same thing with public works, they need tractors, they need they need diesel trucks. So, we didn't do that as part of the initiative in the budget process, even though that was on your initiative to turn our stuff into electronic and things in 2019. We realized that wasn't gonna work, so we just kind of steered clear of that. But that was why that goal was in there. So I was recommending taking that one out. The other one is encourage water capture and reuse by both citizens and businesses. We did that. We added the rebate program. We added the cistern program. So you've already done that. And then I didn't know, I just took out maximize recycling. It's not that I'm against recycling. I just don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, we
People
already have a
don't.
recycling program. We could be add household hazardous waste. You know, it could be a clear objective.
What about the VW settlement that we had through ACOG, where they were saying we could take our fleets and convert them over, or wasn't that within the last couple of years? I know the ACOG's been working on that. Does that impact us at all?
No, you had to have vehicles of a certain age,
Okay,
and we didn't have it.
Okay.
We didn't comply with the grant requirements, and
Okay.
so we didn't get any of that.
okay, all right.
The reduced vehicle emissions, we did pass an ordinance at one time for no idling,
idling.
and there's no way on this planet to enforce that.
Mhm.
The cops idle all the time, our tractors idle all the time, people sitting at lights all the time.
Drive-through.
Mhm.
They wanted us to cite people on the drive-through.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yes, I'm gonna cite somebody waiting at Whataburger. That's just,
Yeah.
I mean, but again, it's a ridiculous objective, like I can't, anyway. So I'm just recommending you take it out.
Mr. Stevens?
So I actually have a suggestion for the recycling one. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, to my knowledge, there is not a single business that has recycling in the whole city. And that is, the only recyclable things that are profitable are metals like aluminum and stuff, steel,
Cardboard.
and cardboard. Yeah, and some businesses generate hundreds or thousands of pounds of cardboard per week. So it kind of have to be selective. Something to also think about with the solid waste, the future agreement, but there's not any opportunities for recycling for commercial businesses. And so that may be something that's actually achievable, that you could enhance. And it's gonna take some thinking about, because people use them as dumps, so it's gonna have to be locked and all that, but nonetheless, throwing that out there.
Thank you.
So it continue to encourage native plants and then encourage, we said, rewarding that last one, encourage recycling at all city events and functions, trying to give it a more clear, precise objective. Citizen involvement.
We do that.
Excuse me just a second. Mr. Martinez, did you have a comment? And then
We
Mr.
do that
Covers.
right now.
I mean, we do, we put recycling bins out. The unfortunate thing is we put them out and they end up getting thrown in the trash anyways because people, it gets contaminated. So we put them out there more for perception, it seems like, than it actually working unless you put
That's
it.
that education
It's
piece.
that education piece, and we don't have staff standing next to each recycling bin controlling that, and so people during 4th of July festival, they're just going in the nearest bin, so.
Mr.
But
Covers.
I had
Yes, go ahead.
on the additional recommendations for environmental sustainability, and that's the first one, add cellular tracking devices to city vehicles. I didn't, to provide vehicle health information to the department. Is that?
So it's part of the smart city, again, that's your IT person, Dan, and he can probably explain a little bit more. So it's part of smart city, and so a couple of years ago, we lost 3 police cars because they didn't get oil changes for 30 to 50,000 miles, like somebody was anyway. And so we now have a process to deal with all of that. But there was some time where some of the regular vehicle maintenance, right? Changing your oil helps with fuel emission, making sure you have regular maintenance on your vehicles helps with fuel emissions. This smart tracking also keeps track of how long cars are idling, how long they're staying in one place. So it's GPS, so you're paying attention to how long somebody's, staying in their vehicle, vehicle being on. So let's say Public Works, sometimes it doesn't make sense for them to turn off their vehicle because they're doing X, Y, Z. But sometimes it does. If they're mowing the whole park, they should turn off their vehicle, lock their vehicle, and mow the park, right? There's no reason to keep the vehicle running just so they have AC when they're done mowing. And they don't, but it would keep track of that. And they have been accused in the past, right, of just leaving their car idling. And so that was an initiative brought by your IT guy.
And how are you gonna regulate that, Doctor? For instance, a police officer is idling there for a while, and looking at traffic, he's there about 30, 40 minutes. What's your performance measure and say, hey, you've been there for 30,
You should
40
have
minutes?
had
And how can you
some more
enforce that?
community, it should be community contacts within that 40 minutes. You should have some community contacts. It's not writing citations, but it could be warnings, it could be, he should lob and stop.
So is that gonna open a new can of worms as far as, telling a police officers, hey, you need to do this within a certain length of time?
No, you can't give quota to police. I can't tell them to write 10 citations in an hour. But I
Right.
I definitely can regulate how long they're sitting idling. They're sitting idling for 2 hours or an hour and a half and they have no community contacts. There's something wrong.
So do you have to create a new ordinance on that in
You don't
order
have
to
to create a
enforce
new
that?
ordinance. It's more of a policy change, an internal policy change. But again, this isn't really set up to track my employees and say, oh, this is what we're doing and I wanna make sure you're doing your job. This is more looking at the vehicle, is a car sitting there putting all these emissions and there's no work product coming out of that. There's no resource being provided to the community. Is Public Works just letting their trucks idle so they have AC when they go in? Or my admin staff just idling the admin car wherever, and Hobby, I don't know what they're doing, in Hobby Lobby, or whatever it is that they're doing. It was a way to do that, it was a way to kind of take a look at that. Supposedly, and I can double check with Daniel, it also keeps track of vehicle maintenance on the vehicle. Is the oil being changed? Is it at its maximum, capacity for doing, those kinds of things? And
Who's gonna monitor that?
it should download a report and the department should monitor their vehicle health.
Okay. Mr. Martinez?
Everything we've been talking about right now, that's a management issue. It shouldn't be a strategic,
Well, again,
planning
it
issue.
doesn't
That's
have
a
to-
management problem. If managers aren't doing their job, there's a problem there. That's a management issue.
Okay.
I understand that, that's why I was asking though, I wanted to get her point of opinion.
Yeah, so again, it's just, we added additional recommendations, and that didn't come from police and fire, that came from your IT guy. He's sitting in these smart cities, these are what some of the smart cities are putting in their vehicles. And so you'll see some things from different, you don't have to adopt those. I'm not sitting here to babysit my staff. That's not the case. But it does provide that as an extra layer of taking a look at some of the vehicles. And as a matter of fact, if I SAW on their work vehicles, they have GPS tracking on most of their work vehicles, don't they?
They do, but it's not they're not measuring how long they're idle. What they're doing is measuring, okay, their productivity, where they're going.
So they're looking at it from a management
Right.
perspective.
And so that's, when I saw that, I said, what is that doing under environmental sustainability? But you had a different slant on it, so I said, okay.
Yeah, but again, it's not something I'm fighting for to keep. I asked the directors to provide us some recommendations, and so you'll see every director provided recommendations. I even had some people provide recommendations on police and fire, and not police and fire.
Okay, Mr. Stevens?
I think again, so this is a 10-year plan, right?
5 year.
5 years.
Oh, 5 year, okay, so, and it's something that will, I feel like if this is included in the plan, it should be something that's more, like, I guess this is measurable. Well, it kind of depends on, are we gonna make all of them measurable? Because this is very measurable, like, did we do it, check the box? Or are we gonna make them more general to fit the 5 year, which could be like, you know, evaluate and improve the environmental impact from city-owned vehicles, for example. Because I don't think it's not like just consolidating it into, like, because there's a lot of things you can do with vehicles to, like, you know, make them perform better and have less.
Well, and I've seen a lot of strategic plans, and a lot of them intertwine measurable items with some general overview items. I bet you if you go through the Fort Worth plan, there's probably a couple of them in there that are check the box, as well as general overview. Again, that's more of like what you wanna see in your strategic plan. If you want all of them to be check the box, then you've gotta go with that in mind as you're making your amendments and changes. But I think they can intertwine. You're gonna have some check, like, and say all of y'all agree to add a bond in the next 5 years to address ADA. It's very measurable, check the box, right? But it doesn't mean that shouldn't be part of your strategic plan. That should be part of your strategic plan. It is a future goal for y'all to accomplish that in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I guess it just kind of, again, it kind of goes back, but I just think about this in terms of, because it is under the section of environmental sustainability, and I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with, I love my Ford Power Boost, and it's cool because it idles on the big battery usually, instead of running, and then you can just, you know, the technology's gonna always get better, and I feel like,
That one can definitely be
like,
changed.
in city vehicles, it's like, do we buy the Chevy Suburban that gets, you know, 14 miles per gallon, or do we buy the Ford Explorer or whatever they have now, which obviously gets better gas mileage? It's kind of, you know, but it can constantly be looked at.
The next goal is citizen involvement. This had a lot to do with transparency and getting citizens involved, the communication piece. This is how we ended up with the e-news at one point. This is how we continued with the Lions Roar. This is how we started Facebook, because we were, at the time, a lot of city governments were against Facebook and social media pages. And so, maintain technology to update website. At the time when I started here, y'all didn't really even have a website. Y'all built on that, and so we've got a new website. We, at the time, didn't post our agendas on there. We didn't live stream our meetings. We already do all of that. We've combined most of the city portals into one portal. We have GoGov now, and we're changing PubWorks to a different system. So that one's kind of changed a little bit. promote youth programs in city venues. They wanted to do like basketball inside the community center and some soccer stuff at the park and getting with the Shadow Mist, and then we ended up with the Roll 11 on the soccer fields over here, and then the seniors wouldn't give up the community center to put basketball courts in there. It's gonna change the dynamic of the community center, and so rentals were gonna be impacted, and so, we just didn't do it, but that was that F. And so, I deleted it because we're obviously not moving in that direction, but that doesn't mean you may not have, we do a lot of youth programs at the library, that could mean that goal, if that makes sense. So again, it's more of, I just need to know.
You know, I'm just still baffled about all the ways we try to communicate to our citizens through e-news and the Lions Roar and, you know,
I still get complaints.
and we still get complaints. And so, I mean, and I even, you know, like I've told several citizens, because I kept hearing this.
Did y'all see the new e-news on Friday?
No, I didn't, but I've got to. Somebody told me that, somebody was on picture. There was a lot of pictures from the town hall and whatnot. But, you know, just adding an extra communication after each council meeting, because people are saying, we didn't know that the Triangle Park was gonna be developed. I'm like, well, it was at the council meeting, and, you know, so again, just trying to, but people have to engage. I mean, we're trying, but is there any other ideas that you, I mean, I know we need to use our marquee, and the marquee at the library is, we're waiting for a part, so that's a way that we can communicate, but what else? And I thought that the robocall seemed to be very, very positive for the town hall meeting.
We always use
So,
robocall. We
anyway,
have used
that's,
robocall.
anyway, Mr. Bradshaw, do you have any other
Yeah,
ideas?
So I was just thinking, you know, because people were saying that at the
Uh-huh.
town hall about, they didn't know that the
Yeah.
Triangle property was gonna be developed, and same thing, on here, what is it called?
Post Landing.
Post Landing,
Mhm.
right. You know, probably everybody was getting texts and emails and phone calls after construction started, after things
After
started
the
to get
trees
leveled.
started coming
But
down.
nobody called, nobody said anything when the notice was there,
Mhm.
right? There's a notice of a public hearing, right? When there's rezoning or whatever. It's like people, you know, they don't even pay attention to it. You don't see it until, oh, look, all the trees are getting
Mhm.
bulldozed.
I do think the citizens need to take some responsibility to engage.
Agreed. So people need to be aware of what's going on. You know, I got a text this morning actually asking about the property over on the,
Constantly getting that.
But I was just thinking, how can we make people aware? And I don't know if it's realistic or not, but it was like, instead of putting a sign that says, notice of public hearing,
Mhm.
you know, park a tractor there, bulldozer, and say, coming soon, you know, like new development.
Really get
If
their
you wanna learn
attention.
about it, come to the meeting,
Yeah.
right?
That's a good idea.
I don't know,
Yeah.
there's something to,
Melinda,
Public
you have
Works
a-
has tractors.
Melinda, you
that-
have a tractor we can borrow?
It's expensive, I mean,
Yeah.
it's expensive.
It is, and I know we're not legally required to do it,
Yeah,
right?
I know, but
we
you're
do what we
saying,
can
but we're trying to
for people.
communicate, yeah, that's our goal.
Right.
Okay, thank you, great idea. Mr. Campos and then Mr. Orozco, go ahead.
So on this recommendation, what I've heard from citizens is that they cannot see the webcast in the council. So,
Right.
and
So they can
It's
see
either
you.
one or the other,
It's either
right?
one or the other. Right, well, right now, because they're obviously using, different cameras in here right now, we don't have split screen, currently. You either see the council or you see the screen. Like right now, or the way I had the feed before they put these cameras out, was just to see the PowerPoint. So when I'm up here, I have to do the switching. So obviously I'm engaged with y'all because I'm the city manager. I don't always switch back and forth. Mr. Bradshaw is actually the one, I guess Tina Jason's texting him like, hey, you gotta go back to the council, and I'll switch back and forth. So you can do that. This redesign will include a split screen
Okay,
for them. And we've been working on, we've never touched your PEG funds before. And so you'll see that during this budget cycle. We've been working with Spectrum to see if we can access those funds. And so staff has been working tirelessly, for the last few months, trying to figure that out and how we can legally use those funds. I've had a couple of attorney opinions and they all agree that we need to have a public access channel in order to access those funds. And so when I'm able to do that, then I'll be able to use those funds to revamp this building and the conference center.
you mean we'll have a TV channel like the City of San Antonio? Oh,
If it works out, I don't
If it
wanna
works
throw-
out,
If
okay.
it works out and I'm able to do that, yes.
Excuse me, just a
Go
second.
back one panel.
Hang on just a second, Mr. Orozco, did you have a follow-up? I'm sorry. Yeah.
If you're able to do that before fiscal year end, I'd rather see it.
Oh,
let's
yeah,
do it
I mean,
this,
we're working on, we've been working
budget
on it, and
adjustment.
we're going back and forth with Spectrum. This is some, again, thinking outside the box, using other funds, we're not taking from general fund. You know, this is just, nobody's ever, city manager's touched your PEG funds before, so you have some money sitting there. I'm just trying to figure out a way to access those, so you're not pulling those, because it's gonna be about 150 to 200,000 to do everything we wanna do in the council chambers and at the conference center. You know, to have mics and stuff set up over there and all of that, and so I don't wanna take that from your general fund.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roscoe.
Thank you, Mayor. And going back to D, I honestly believe that the CPAC is doing a great job. Mata and Burleson are really bringing the CPAC along. To every time that I've gone to the meeting, it's gotten better and better and better. And for 2024, and speaking with Chairman Mr. Mata, we have a lot of things that we want to establish in 2024. And going with President Bradshaw, as far as letting people know that we're gonna have this, whether we put it in our Facebook. I know that we have it in our website as far as the calendar, but if we can promote it more, we can alleviate a lot of the questions like they were in the town hall that could be answered at the CPAC. And I really, really would like to continue to enhance the CPAC, and I would really, really would like to help to advertise this to the citizens, say, hey, this is your time to speak up if you need to.
And also, you have to be on the Leon Valley app in order to get those notifications?
So, yeah, you have
Yeah,
to
because
go
I
back
got a
to
notification of the
No,
Bandera Road
right.
closure and town hall meeting, but people have to actually download the lab
download
app,
the app,
right?
sign up for it,
Okay.
for the text alerts. I wanna
Right,
know
for the
Bandera
text
Road
alert.
approach. With our blood
Mhm.
sensors being out, y'all are getting texted from me like 5 o'clock, sorry guys, but
Mhm.
5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and some of y'all haven't downloaded GoGov. I just wanna let you know, streets open, streets closed, because our sensors were out. Normally the sensors, would send those to the Google Maps and to Waze. They're out. We knew that they were out 2 to 3 months before. We had been on it. It just so happened to flood before this stuff came in. They actually came on the 29th. They came on the 29th. They took a look at all the sensors. One of them got damaged during the Solace construction situation, and so, I don't know, you may have been on it, but we're getting a bunch of text messages.
Yes, I got a
So
ton of them.
that's when the fire, that's when it was going out.
Okay,
And so it took them a month and a half to even come and assess it. They were
I
that,
haven't done anything since,
we had to
yeah.
turn them off
Mhm.
because they weren't working.
Right,
But their next available appointment, was January, so a month and a half later.
okay, very good. Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, so regarding that, there is such a thing as alarm fatigue. I was on those lists also.
Yeah.
And eventually it's the boy who cried wolf, people stop paying attention. And I think we reached that point, because I certainly reached that point with the notifications. And so we just have to be cautious to not do that, and it's good to turn it off finally.
Yeah, we
But-
turned it off because it was just going.
Yeah, you just don't believe, there comes a point when you ignore it, and there's like research on alarm fatigue, so look it up. Regarding citizen involvement, and going back to, I believe the mayor's comments, I believe there's a couple of cardinal rules in life. One is people will always find something to complain about, and also there is always room for improvement. And I think no matter how good we are, and no matter how good the best city in the whole country is, there's always room for improvement. And I specifically would like to see something regarding social media, because 90% of Americans use social media actively. Though we have like 2,000 followers or something, our population is like 12,500. So I feel like there's room for improvement on social media. And the other thing regarding specifically the suggestion to add on enhancing the audio visual in here, I personally think it might be a good idea to see it, I think it's best to broadcast it on all channels available. So whether that's YouTube and Facebook and whatever the city's website, if there's a way to do it all simultaneously. I know even on my way over here, I was gonna try to listen in. I couldn't find the video at all from streaming. I just tried several different things. And it just, so I don't know how citizens actually find the
It's gotta be easy.
audio from
So
this.
normally you would go know, it's there, on the homepage, but right now it wasn't working, that's why they had to set up these cameras. So something went on, if you showed up a little early, we were having some problems.
Again, people, 70-something% people use mobile devices, home, you don't necessarily go to, so it's best if it's, the town hall, I think, a lot of people participated on
We did have a lot, and so
Facebook.
now your meetings are connected to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube Live for City of Leon Valley, we just have a very small following on YouTube Live. We've been doing that since we switched over, so you can watch us on YouTube, you don't have to go to it.
I tried.
And so, right, it wasn't working right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is now,
Okay.
but it wasn't at the time. And so we had some technology issues, and we saw them
okay.
setting up
I
this
see.
stuff right now, it wasn't working.
Yes,
Um,
Ms. Burris has a comment or a question. Good morning and welcome. I know I'm so used to evening. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, I'm Beth Birch from Seneca Estates.
Mhm.
I have a couple of comments. I'm gonna defend the public here to
Okay,
say, I know there's a lot of communication that's going on, and I really do try to keep up with the majority of it. But sometimes less is more. And how I mean that, for example, in the e-news, one, we talked about this at the city, the meeting, but it's like, there's so much repetition, it's like, oh my God, I don't wanna see that
Yeah.
again, give me something new. And the other thing that was mentioned by somebody, and I apologize, it's, if we could have bullet points after the city council meeting, cause sometimes you don't wanna click in and read all this gobbledygook that you don't really, get to the point and tell us what was discussed, especially early on in some of these projects, where you haven't made a final decision, but that this was discussed and it's gonna be discussed more. And then I'm also gonna defend the thing about public notice on these properties that are being developed. If you're driving down Evers or Heavener, you can't read this sign that's that big, and it's
well,
like,
that's
we
what
gotta
Mr.
make it
Bradshaw's
big
point was.
enough, and not like coming soon.
Yeah,
We wanna know before the zoning change has been finalized, to say zoning request and in big letters, so as you're driving by, you can go, oh my gosh, I need to get involved, I'm really against this, or I'm really for this, or whatever. So I think you've got to realize that most people aren't in a position to spend their entire life looking at all these committee agendas and all these committee meeting minutes and everything else. It's like, we're trying to get as much as we can as easily as possible. And I do agree that the e-news is a great tool. I look at it faithfully every Friday evening, but sometimes there's just too much garbage on there. And I want to get to the point and tell me what are the big things that we're talking about, because very honestly, I can't afford to come to every city council meeting or even, watch it at home. We have life, and
sure.
so I think you need to give us bullet points, highlights, this was discussed, this is an upcoming issue that, whatever, so that we can figure out what we want to delve into more intensely.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up with you, Beth, on that,
Oh,
so.
Go ahead, I was gonna
For
answer
sure.
her and then. So we heard y'all at the town hall meeting, so, we're revamping the e-news, and so hopefully if you took a look at this Friday, it's a little bit different, we're still gonna make some changes. But we're gonna put, so here's, we can never win the win. But a long time ago, we were just putting new stuff on the e-news, but then we were getting calls for this, like, where's this gone? This should be on every e-news. So we just kept adding and adding because we were getting complaints about the Feed the Deer, Oakville, COVID information. We took off COVID, and then the mayor got a call, and we had to add it back on. And so we try to clean it up, but then we get people calling and complaining, where's this item? Whatever they're passionate about.
Right.
So then we're kind of bending towards trying to meet everybody's needs.
Right.
So what we did was we're gonna put all the repetitious items just on a page on the website and try to put only the new items on e-news. And so our first attempt was this Friday, and we're still making some changes. So if you take a look at this Friday, you'll see some changes there. As far as the bullet points, we changed our minutes because we heard this too. People don't want to read all their action minutes. So you just really see the vote of how the council voted. Another big part of that is the ordinance reads. We used to vote on the ordinance that night. Now they're required to have 2 reads. So if you're keeping up just looking at your agendas, we will never vote on an item that night. It has to come back. So your agendas function as the bullet point. So if you just read the agenda, they will never vote on an item because they have to see it twice. But what we can do, I think, is maybe add those agendas to social media. If people are getting like a bullet point version of our agendas on social media, we can take a look at maybe doing something like that. Maybe we'll get some more people in to the council meetings. But I do agree with the signs, because I can't see the signs, or, smaller.
But
So
the
yes.
agenda doesn't tell you what happened.
If the agenda doesn't tell, you have to read the minutes or go back and watch the meeting. And then you do your
I
line.
do my line, well, but I do the Friday after the Tuesday. I try to summarize that, but I'm gonna get with you, Beth, to see how I can revamp it towards just bullet points.
Yeah, and your
'Cause I try
minutes,
to explain too.
and your
so-
minutes are action minutes.
Mhm.
You don't have to read a whole bunch. They're, I think at the most 3 or 4 pages now, whereas before they were 30 pages, 60 pages. I mean, we had, they were transcripts. I mean, it was really bad. Now they're just action minutes, so you should be able to go through those fairly quickly. You had something.
Stingwood, yes.
Hi,
Good evening.
my name's,
Good morning,
Good
Linda.
morning.
Uh-huh.
My name is Linda Meffert. Hello, everybody. My first ever strategic planning for city of Leon Valley, so I'm really.
Don't judge.
No, I'm well, no, I'm just, I'm fascinated. I'm enthused, and I really am impressed with the level of thoughtfulness and the attention that you guys are taking your time to really consider, like, what should we do with this? You're not just going through and going, oh, okay, yeah, let's take those out, put those in. I can see you really care, and there's a lot of people here that really care. So I guess my reason for coming up here is, it sounds like you don't want to just, and there's people here who don't just want to say, oh yeah, those are good, kind of refresh it. So I would like to propose that we focus on some citizen involvement. I did look at Fort Worth. I looked at Bernie while I was sitting here. I went to ChatGPT and said, write me a strategic 5-year plan for a city in Texas for 12,000 people. And I'm gonna tell you, our plan is not that far off. Fort Worth has a 492-page strategic plan.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, right?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
don't think that we
No, we
could
don't want that.
ever do
Yeah.
anything like that, but it is amazing. Great call out. Bernie is 48 pages. I think we could probably pick up Bernie's.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, and move some words around and make some incredible progress. But what I would say is that it's gonna be based off the citizen involvement. You're gonna need to find people. In Fort Worth, the first page of it was the citizens,
Mhm.
list of all the citizens, the roundtables, the groups.
Participated.
And I'm gonna tell you, that's really hard. I do this for a living in corporate America. It's very hard to get people to be involved and to care and to participate. And so I would say, as a citizen, focus on goal number 6, get some of your citizens in here and try and take people who really care about the environment. I know people on the Earthwise Living Committee who would love to help. These are not experts there. I know we can't afford to hire a bunch of experts, but I think by looking at what other cities have done, and with people like you in the room, and people like these out here that have amazing insights and feedback, that's how you get ideas, and that's how, I think you were saying, you make it a little bit better. Who said that? Make it better, right? We can always make it better. People are gonna complain, but you take the complaints, it's like in Boy Scout, you don't like the way we run popcorn, you know what? You're now the popcorn kernel for next year, because you have great ideas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything, but I know your Earthwise Living Committee would love to participate in that section of yours.
Thank you. You love popcorn.
Okay, so this is citizen involvement. Again, the other strategic plan I did look at was the city of Seguin, so I'm gonna throw them out there too. They have a pretty big one. Number 7 dealt with providing excellent parks, recreational green space, and cultural opportunities. We do need to take a look at our park and our master plan, and so I just took out the date of 2018, and y'all can come up with a future date for that. That's a measurable goal. Encourage development of recreational programs. I think y'all kind of did that already. We put the exercise machines in the park for the elderly. We revamped some of the trails. That was the part of B. Continue to improve new park spaces. Continue to develop the hike and bike trail system. Develop a program to encourage residents to take advantage of outside amenities. Again, that had to do with like the outside park equipment, new playground equipment, that kind of thing. Provide cultural opportunities to our citizens and guests. And again, that dealt with Taste of Leon Valley and some other festivals they were looking at the time. I think Jazz Festival was part of that as well.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. Martinez had a comment.
Sorry.
I agree with all of our parks. In fact, I think in a way we could have too many parks for a city our size. But what's really amazing is, and I'm looking forward to the results of the study that we commissioned on the utilization of resources. But you really have to thank Public Works for, we've doubled the amount of parks in the last few years, and they haven't increased any staff. So
It just takes us longer to get to those.
it just takes us longer, but they are managing to keep them under control, which is really amazing, and I'd like to give them a shout out for the amazing job they are doing with limited staff.
Absolutely. But again, if you look at these objectives and not continue to improve new parks, what does that mean?
Mr. Stevens, go ahead.
Yeah, so I
What does that
actually,
mean?
so, I don't know what that means. However, I think, so instead of that, I think you could, the adult exercise equipment, or that was added is a good idea, but maybe something along the lines of continue to diversify the available opportunities in our parks, so whether that's adding new trails, or like adding things that we don't have yet,
Like the dog park?
like a dog park, or a splash pad, or like any of the
Skate park.
any of the things that would make it more accommodating, just because it's something we don't have yet. And I think things will continue to be developed over the time.
But that, and so like continue to improve new park spaces, like investigating other amenities such as like just some direction, right? Pickleball, dog park, like things like that, gives us like, so then we know we're looking for grants in the pickleball. We know we're looking for grants in dog parks. We know we're looking for grants in splash pads, or we know we're gonna be investigating how to get this done. We're gonna bring you quotes. We wanna bring you how much is this gonna cost? But we don't know to bring you that unless, one, you add it on an agenda or your plan tells us to. So that's what I mean by some of these objectives, like continue to improve new park spaces doesn't give me much, is what I'm getting at. Additional recommendations, we just updated the date for the strategic plan. We were gonna bring it to you as part of a budgeted item for your next fiscal year, so that's why.
Mr. Campos.
The only thing that I would like to add is that it's how much we need to get the programs for the benefit of the Leon Valley residents, as opposed to people coming from other communities and using our facilities. And so, because quite frankly, all the expenditures are coming from our citizens. So
But
that's
most of
the
your
only thing.
citizens use San Antonio amenities too, right? Like, I think we share amenities, right? I mean, I'm sure Mr. Stevens has used the San Antonio dog park, right? Like, the and Fairfield. So I think we share amenities, so it's kind of, but I would agree with you. You're gonna see a presentation at next Tuesday's meeting. Roque is bringing an AI program to you that he needs for economic development, but the address we ran is Raymond Rickers Park, and you'll see how many people visit our park from everywhere. And so it's a good indicator. You'll be able to kind of see
Who's visiting?
who's visiting those areas. It's based off of cell phone data. You'll see it next Tuesday.
Mhm.
Number 8, openness, transparency, and accountability. This again was to foster an environment in which its members are treated as stakeholders in the community and will be entrusted with responsibilities and challenges that will inspire them to commit themselves to performing their duties with pride and dedication. What does that mean? Can somebody please tell me? I mean, again, guys, when I was really going through these to come up with some rewarding, we did a couple of recommendations. Ms. Pasley came up with these to enhance communication and collaboration between, city council, city staff, and the community by enhancing transparency, trust, and decision making. That, like, when y'all redid the open records request resolution, we took a look at how we were handling open records requests. Y'all purchased just FOIA. So to me, those items met that goal, but when you read that, that's not what that says, right? We just came because that was obviously an issue and we brought that forth to you. To continue to provide a culture that provides a progressive, comfortable environment for all employees, to assure responsiveness and excellent customer service to our citizens and businesses, to continue to maintain strong relationships with current partners so that the collaboration is maximized and resources are utilized wisely, and to seek or new partnerships to further enhance our ability to successfully coordinate situations that may require multiple resources from state, federal, and local nonprofit entities. So, we had a couple of additions,
Well, like, on E, I mean, I'm just thinking of
we use them all the time, we use a
Bear-
county, Bear
Bear
County.
County for the
Sand-
dog, Bear
Sand-
County for
North
the
Side.
homeless, I mean, so we do try
We
to
do
develop
do that,
those
yeah.
partnerships.
Yeah, it's Northside Independent School
Mhm,
District,
right.
we do collaborate a lot. I don't think necessarily that's a bad objective, I just think it's a mouthful, and you could probably
Sure,
reword
it's a
that,
mouthful.
reword that a little bit. Some of these aren't necessarily bad objectives, I think that the heart of where they came from had some really good intent. I just think it left a lot of, unknowns for people that have never read that weren't part of those original conversations. I think we knew what we meant at the time when we developed it, but we didn't translate that if somebody else were going to read this, because they weren't part of that discussion.
Sure. Did somebody else, yes, I thought I saw a hand, Mr. Martinez.
Some of these look like they could be in other sections and not here. To me, to seek out new partnerships, that could even be under economic development instead of here. How does
But
that
it
have to
doesn't
do with
mean that
opening?
this doesn't, it doesn't mean that openness and transparency doesn't tie into economic development. It doesn't mean that doesn't tie into your police and fire. It's just under its subsection, if that makes sense.
Right, I just think some of this can be reorganized in a more logical manner.
Okay, yeah, I'll do some follow-up, but I'll wait for discussion. Mr. Stevens.
When I think of openness, I don't think of government. I think of like you're open with your spouse, but not government, if you know what I mean? And so I don't think that word necessarily
Now that he's
belongs
married, right?
in a government document, newly married. I think this might be a good section to add, again, don't necessarily like the wording, but to add fiscal responsibility, because it kind of blends with several of these in a sense, because like we share the burden of costs for like the homeless, or which would go with E, or and I don't know, because we didn't add fiscal responsibility to.
No, so Mr. Campos brought it that it's not in any goal, objective, mission statement, or vision statement, and I agree with him. I think that that's a big part of what y'all do. You spend taxpayer dollars, it should be somewhere.
Right,
to some
it
regard.
kind of goes hand in hand with accountability as well, just because but I love the word transparent in something, because I think that's very important, and that just that is definitely a step in the right direction. And I just think this might be an appropriate slide, because a lot of the times we're seeking new partnerships for the purpose of being fiscally responsible, in a sense that we're trying to cost share with, other
Right.
organizations and stuff, so.
Very good. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Sure.
Mr.
So,
Bradshaw.
again, just looking at this one specifically, right, I mean, as I've gone through them, the titles of this, the goals, when you say goal, openness, transparency, accountability, that's not a goal, right? You can almost switch it and say that's the objective, right, and then have goals that go to that objective or something. Just as we go through it, Ms. Martinez is saying some of these could be in different things, different areas, I agree, but I think you need to look at it more of, we don't necessarily need all 8 of these goals either. We can see which ones to describe, which ones to combine, if we need to split the police and fire, what is our overall objective, and it goes back to, as Crystal started with, what's our mission statement, what's our vision, you start with those, and then you have, how do we achieve that, and that's what the goals and objectives are meant to do. And I would almost, as we look at these, go back to the departments that we have here, obviously we talked about police and fire, the major ones, public works, what are their goals and objectives, what are they trying to accomplish, and how does it all tie together? I think that's the way we.
And you left out your library.
And the library, of course.
So they're not in any of your goals and objectives. Regina had some recommendations, but it didn't, I was gonna add them later, some goals for the library. But they almost fit in with, some of the other areas. So I left it out for right now. I figured as we continue, again, this isn't a deciding factor kind of day, but as we kind of move through the process, to kind of incorporate some library goals and where you wanna see your library. Because we did move on some goals from the council, even though they weren't in your plan, y'all wanted to initiate, youth programs, some other youth programs, really young teen programs in the library. And Regina's moved that direction. Y'all had some grants that y'all wanted to get. And that came out, they're not even listed, but they took those
Yeah.
objectives, right,
things to do,
do,
right,
right.
so I agree, all the departments, major
Yeah.
departments of the city should be accounted for.
Sure.
Right, so we got a lot of work to do.
You
is
do
what
got a lot of work
I'm-
to
I'm
do.
thinking here as I'm sitting here, and I think, at the beginning of this process, you said, do we scrap the whole thing and start again? Or do we keep with what we've got and work with it? So I wanna know what the council thinks we should do as we go forward. I mean,
So my,
with staff
can I give a
yes,
slight
with staff
recommendation?
input.
My
Yeah.
thing is I think you need to start with one, your mission statement. Let's just focus on your mission statement, right? Where do you wanna go, right? And then from there, we can look at your vision statement, but then we can build on your goals and your stuff, because I mean, I don't know, I'm gonna assume it is, but transportation's still a goal, right? Should we keep police and fire? Do you want all your department heads accounted for? And so I don't know that really until you tell me that as your mission, right? Fiscal finance wasn't included anywhere in these conversations. So, do you wanna take a look at your mission statement and your vision statement first, so we know which direction this vote is going for, instead of having another meeting like this where you're trying to touch 100 things at one time? You're gonna piecemeal it, right? You do your mission and your vision. I'm not saying to take a whole year or anything, but let's tackle your mission and your vision statement first. And then from there, we can build on the goals. But then the side piece is, do you really want to dive deep, and do you really want to take a look at a consultant to come in and do that? You've done that before. We had the AI stuff, and then we moved into Mike Delagarza did it a couple of times for us. Do you want to take a look at that? Do you want to do it in-house? Do you want to hold citizen workshops? So those are just some things I need to know so I can get you a timeline of how long this will take.
Okay, well, I liked what Ms. Meffert said about getting citizens involved, and so, but again, it depends upon our 8 goals, or are we gonna keep those, or are we gonna scrap it and do something else? And again, we have to set our mission and our vision to tie in. But I was just thinking, as I was sitting here, like, okay, we could maybe ask the park commission to come up with, if that goal is parks and green space and all that. Again, get them, all of us working together in one big room and having parks and CPAC for the police and Earthwise for the environmental. I was just thinking we could get citizen involvement that way, and I don't know. That was just what I was thinking as I'm sitting here, but it's a lot. It's a whole lot. So, but anyway, just again, we've had these strategic plans, and we've had a lot of citizen input into them. So it's not just the council, not just the staff, got to include the citizens. And so, but I agree with the fiscal responsibility. I don't know why we didn't have that in there. It's weird, but I think we definitely need to, because all of this takes money, and yeah.
I'm always open, just like when they brought up the town hall meeting, the e-music, I'm like, that's an excellent idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah,
So,
to archive, yeah.
Archive,
Mhm.
so, fiscal responsibility, right? Nobody's,
Exactly, that's why you have different eyes looking at different things. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents, but Mr. Martinez, you had your hand up, go ahead.
I agree with the mayor that this have several meetings. This is not something we're gonna do today and put this away and never look at it for 5 years. But we need to get citizen involvement, and we can start with a mission statement, but I think if we go through all the different goals and stuff, at the end, we're gonna find we might have to adjust the mission statement, because it could evolve. So, this is a living document, and, right now, we can't tell what it's gonna end up with.
sure, your mission and your vision, though, you've had it for a long time. It's
Yeah,
been the
since
same mission and vision statement.
2008 or something
Yeah,
like that.
I-
That's after the AIA, that's how it all came
We've had
out.
the same
Yeah.
mission and vision statement, and then we did a whole thing with C and,
Mhm.
whole
Yeah.
initiative with that. I think we're really good at doing stuff, but then we don't circle back, and do maintenance on it, is what I would say, so.
But I agree with Mr. Stevens about how we need to look to the future.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and you mentioned it, sustainability is one, but now the big buzzword is resiliency. So how do we prepare for the unknown with everything that's facing us as a community? So that's not in there, so I'd like to add that. So anyway, anyone else? Yes, Mr. Carlos.
I'd like to see if we could just review some of the documents for myself, Bernie and the city of Seguin and some other examples. And maybe we can come up with, between the counselors here, a draft mission and vision. And then, as well as pass it with the citizens and get input on that, and maybe there's gonna be changes, but I think we do need the input from the department heads along with our citizens.
So I don't know if the mayor remember this, when we came up with the first mission statement, each counselor provided a mission statement. Art Reno was one, each counselor came up with their own mission, staff had a couple versions of a mission statement, and then we took it to, I don't know if it was a workshop, but the citizens picked the mission, and they all kind of sound the same. I mean, y'all aren't far off base, but then the citizens kind of gave their input as to which mission that they liked. But that's how y'all did it the very first time, because I just remember Mr. Reyna, I think we ended up, that was his kind of like version of his mission. Y'all tweaked it a little bit, but I think that was his like version of the mission statement. So everybody provided a mission statement. And so y'all can do it that way if y'all want to do it that way, and then you could take it to a coffee or two and then have the citizens give input on which mission statement they like. You can do it that way.
Anyone else? Yes,
Well,
Mr.
I was
Oscar.
gonna wait to make any changes until I heard, Dr. Cardera's presentation and hear my colleagues' opinion. I like the idea of having a workshop and bringing out a coffee and stuff, and, I'm gonna go back home and look at it again and work on it, and then,
That's your homework.
yeah, right, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Mr.
Yeah.
Bradshaw, did you have some other comments?
Yeah, I just, I took some notes here that, to look at the city of Bernie and the city of Fort Worth strategic plan and stuff that's.
And I think Seguin was
Seguin was
that one.
mentioned as well.
I try to keep it local, like
Yeah.
kind of regional,
Right.
so I looked at Bernie, and then I look at a little bit larger, I think New Braunfels was also on the list. Because normally they have money to hire consultants.
Right, they already spent the money to do this, so
Great.
I propose that we go back and
Yes.
everybody look at those and then,
Okay.
come back again, like Councilor Risco said, and do our homework and kind of come up with maybe a mission statement and a vision statement. Then from there, we can agree on it, because I think, my guess is we'll all go back and come back with something similar to what Crystal had said.
They
And
were
then,
all pretty similar.
yeah,
I mean, pretty
and then we
similar.
can decide and then go from there and set goals accordingly. I think that would be the next step forward.
Okay, anyone disagree with that? Yes, or agree? Mr. Stevens?
So I'm just curious, first of all, regarding Bernie's, do they have a strategic plan? I found their master plan, I found their, rolling 10-year plan, which does not look like a strategic plan, although it seems like it should be. And they also have a transportation plan, but I couldn't, so I don't.
I had 30, I looked at,
What was the other, can you just email us?
Yeah,
links?
I'll email you. I think I looked at Bernie's, because when I was originally looking at it, I was gonna present y'all a brand new, like, this is the way a strategic plan should look like. But then I felt like I was giving you your goal, like, you should be dictating what your goals are to me. It shouldn't be the other way around. So my original intent for this meeting, I was going to rewrite your strategic plan so it made sense, but then I was coming up with the goals and objectives that I should really be coming up with, y'all should. So I scrapped that idea and I went with this process instead.
So can you email
But I
us
will email
all
you.
of, so that we're all looking at the same
Same thing, yes.
strategic
Yeah.
plan? Yeah, that's
I looked
important,
at, I
yeah.
wanna say Bernie, Seguin, I
Yeah.
wanna say it was either New Braunfels or San Marcos, whoever's got a river, cause a lot of their shit.
And can you tell us what the difference between the strategic plan and master plan is?
So your strategic plan encompasses all areas, all of your departmental areas of goals of where you wanna end up. It should be, your strategic plan for your city should encompass your library, it should hit all of your major departments of goals and kind of how you're gonna pay for them, whether it's by bond or you're gonna investigate street maintenance, sales tax, or crime
Grants.
control prevention, grant, whatever the goal is for that. That should be, your master plan is more of your development and what you wanna see from a neighborhood and your thoroughfare. Melinda can probably give way better eloquent explanation for it. But it, land use, yeah,
okay.
there you go, thank you, Melinda. And so, that's what your master, it's not gonna have your goals for your police and fire in there. It's going to be what you wanna see in that particular, if it should be R1, should it be R6, should Rainier Road be B3 and not B2, what does that look like? what your future goals are for that. And then normally out of that comes some code changes. So for instance, if we're taking a look at, we want Bandera Road to be B2 and we don't want more car dealerships, well then you wanna move car dealerships out of B2 and put them in B3, so it takes a look at how that meshes with your codes, and that's why the zoning commission, I think, has been asking for a master plan, because the master plan they're going off of is an older master plan, and so those goals and objectives for land use and how they should vote are different than council's version of what that land use should be. So they kind of all intertwine. Your strategic plan should kind of go in line with your master plan in the sense of, if you want to change all of Bandera Road to BB3, for instance, you could have a goal in there that y'all are going to investigate or move towards redeveloping Bandera Road to BB3, or you could have a goal in your strategic plan that reflects that initiative in your master plan, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, I agree. I think it'd be wise to start with the mission and vision statement, because that'll kind of frame up everything else. And I think that it's wise of us to analyze other cities and see, and then so maybe can you send us maybe 10 examples of just the mission and vision, and then.
Oh, yeah, that was you would say.
Well, because I don't, some cities don't have a strategic plan, at least publicly available.
Well, you have to see, some cities have stronger initiatives, for instance, I think they have a whole river plan, a whole strategic plan dealing with the river and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some have huge transportation, I think cities being a huge transportation, one of them has a huge transportation initiative that they have
That's
a
New
whole.
Braunfels.
Oh, New Braunfels. So they have a whole transportation plan just dealing with transportation. We have a goal of transportation, because normally we're just discussing Bandera Road, and that's kind of what moved us in that. We had a whole plan on Bandera Road and all kinds of things done with Bandera Road. And so you're right, transportation includes other streets. We have other major thoroughfares in Leon Valley. The goals for those streets should be put in there. But transportation is kind of touched on in your master plan in a way. And so they all tie in together.
Okay. I had a question, and that is the idea of using a consultant has been brought up this morning. So, how much is it? And
So if that's something
I don't know. I'm just asking. I have no idea.
So
I don't know if we need that and I don't know what our budget is like, and so.
Was this free to represent?
The one that Seguin, I think, was.
What was
But
it?
what's this one?
I think this is De La Garza. I don't know if you used De La Garza in
I think this one it might have been what he helped us with, but I think this one we didn't have a consultant. I thought it was just Kelly
I
that
think
went
Kelly
through
just
it.
did this one,
Yeah,
but
she did this
I
one.
think you had the AI, that one was kind of free in that sense, and then you hired De La Garza, and then he did it 2 or 3 times for
Yeah.
y'all. Came and did we had a whole workshop at the community center, we did this whole thing.
But I don't know, Linda Meffert said she just did one on chat GTP and a strategic plan. Well, that doesn't cost anything. I don't know.
I could stick this whole document in ChatGPT and turn out a different wording for each one. The other thing is, I could do, again, whatever direction, you could go out for an RFP and see what that number looks like. I wanna say De La Garza's group was 30,000.
Really? That much? Oh,
But I don't know, I have to go back. I remember thinking it was really expensive.
pretty reasonable.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, I'll go
But
back and look.
anyway, yeah, I think we ought to just try it on our own, really, and then, I don't know, that's just, I'm cheap.
I'll go back
And I
and
think
look.
we've all got some good brains in this room, and so, I don't know. It's up to y'all.
No, and again, I could be wrong.
I know Mr. Mono wants to say something on that one. The 30,000 came up.
No,
it was like, oh,
don't quote me on that, I
Okay.
have to go back.
I don't remember if it was that much, I really don't. I didn't think it was.
Yeah, I'm putting my bid for 12,000.
Going once, going twice, 12,000.
But anyways, look, again, I think someone brought up the concept of less is more. So, and I think you guys have done a really good job at kind of weighing through, this is my term, some of the nonsense from the previous master plan, whatever you want to call it, strategic goals. And, again, your role here is to govern and make decisions. I think we're getting a little too caught up in the time spent and resources spent in creating a vision statement or goals. And, you know, as the residents just stated, I don't know that residents really sit around and read that kind of stuff. I mean, think about it. Who is it for? Is it for people that go to TML that want to learn things about Leon Valley and want to try to propose things, you know, for, you know, money-making reasons? I don't know. I would just warn you not to get too bogged down with putting too much time into this. We see where the previous plan got us. And again, it's just a lot of nice statements. I think ultimately it's you guys that establish the policy as the citizens. We vote you guys in there to get work done. To me, this is like fluff, honestly. So just a warning. Thank you.
But Dr. Caldera, wouldn't you, okay, go ahead, Linda.
I know I've been doing this for a living in corporate America for 30 years, but what I would say is that this is the core of knowing what you as leaders see for our city moving forward, and having a plan to involve citizens so that they are informed and they do feel engaged. And what I would say is it's really hard to do that, you guys, in the age of information. People are bombarded with stuff, right? So I think it takes an initiative from leaders like you to say, hey, what is our plan? How do we do it? I think the ideas that Beth and what was done in the e-news this past week were phenomenal. I mean, and that came out of the town hall. You guys moved quickly, you delivered, and it's not perfect, but you listened, and I was quite delighted with how you were saying you're gonna move the regular information to the side, new news. Again, I'm a product manager, so that's what I do, but I could not disagree more. I think that this is extremely important.
Well, I was gonna ask Dr. Caldera, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, you go to the annual meetings, and strategic planning is really front and focus for each community.
It is, and you know, again, I'll just kind of reiterate, if your objectives are really well written, you know, I think somebody gave an example one time. You have 6 council members and they all have a paddle on a boat. Well, if you don't know which direction you're going, you're just going in a circle. And so the plan essentially is to get everybody to paddle in this, so you're going in the same direction. And so that's the idea of the strategic plan. Again, and I know again, I have cited somebody in here where I said the staff doesn't read it. Well, we don't read it because most of these objectives didn't say anything. Promote Leon Valley, or, you know, they were very generic.
We're gonna change that.
We're gonna change that, and that was my point of this meeting. This is the first attempt at communicating with the citizenry, with the council, and trying to get some clear objectives, so we're all going in the same direction.
Exactly. I like the paddle example. Ms. Barsh, please come forward. Thank you.
Well, I disagree completely that this is fluff. This is really important stuff. And for all my years in the healthcare industry, you know, you have to have a strategic plan, and everybody has to be going in the same direction exactly. I think that it's probably more important now because of where we are as a city and the development around us and why people are coming to live in Leon Valley. And we have to have that citizens' input because we want a voice in where the city's going to make it the place that we want to live, that new people may want to move to, whatever. And so I think that, you know, you may not get a lot out of the citizens' input, but I think it helps prioritize what actually gets listed as a strategy or an objective, so that at least the high points are touched and we feel good that we were heard in a way, even though we may not have a voice in the wording of the objective, but just really to help prioritize the initiatives and where we want to go as a city.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Yes, Mr. Campos.
I agree with what's been said. And again, it goes back to, I think this builds the framework for our budget, right? This is the direction we're headed, and I that's what I think, why I wanted to add fiscal responsibility into this, because it does provide us with a direction. Based on citizen input, perfect example.
So what I'm hearing everybody saying is we're gonna focus on the mission and vision statement. Y'all are gonna go home, do your homework. I'll email y'all a couple of mission and vision statements as well as some strategic plans. y'all all get the same information, I'll do it next week. And then, we will set another meeting, to go over y'all's individual mission and vision, so we get a workshop with the citizenry, and then we'll move forward from there.
I just wanted to ask, is having this at the next coffee too late? Or do y'all want to, it's gonna have to be in March then, because we have several more meetings in February, and then we have Earthwise on the second, or the second.
So y'all have
March.
a meeting on the 24th to investigate the Hemir, Creek
Erosion,
program. And then, at the coffee, we had, something at the coffee we said we were gonna have.
Oh, I was trying to think of that this morning. I'm like, what did you and I talk about?
Sure, I have it on my
I
notes
know.
somewhere.
I couldn't remember, but the coffee is April 24th, the fourth Saturday in April, so just wanted to kind of get some.
So you could do it there.
parameters.
You
We
could,
could do it there, or we could do it at the end of March. Mr. Stevens.
I have an idea. How about on the 24th, after we complete talking about the other topic, we talk about just the mission and vision.
yeah, we could do that.
Because then it'll give us a couple weeks to review
That's
what
a
you
good
send
idea.
out. We don't lose another day of, you know.
Okay, that's a
I'm
good
okay
idea.
with that.
Yeah, we're already committed to the 24th, so.
27.
The 24th is a Saturday, February 24th. Yeah, February 24th, yeah. Okay,
Before we,
yes, sir. Go ahead,
before we
Mr. Roscoe.
close up, Melinda, I wanna give a deal to your employees this morning. I got up real early and I was taking off, and I passed by the park and they were already out there cleaning up the park for boy last night. Good job, thank you.
Oh, yeah, we got some good rain. I got an inch at my house. I don't know about y'all, but we need a lot of rain. All right, well, thank everyone for coming, and thanks to the staff for being here and the citizen input. Really greatly appreciate it. If there's no further questions or comments, then we move to adjourn at 11:23, and we'll see you next Tuesday. We start at 6 p.m. No, I'm just kidding. See, I'm all confused. AM, PM, anyway, start at 6 p.m.
You just
And, yeah, all right, move to adjourn. Thank y'all. See you next Tuesday. Bye.
You too,
6 a.m.